He left me a box. Inside was the truth about my real parents and a secret that tore my family apart. I thought he was my hero. I had no idea he was high. I never thought the man who taught me how to ride a bike, patch a tire, grill a steak, and drive a stick shift would turn out to be a liar, but that's exactly what happened the day after his funeral, when I found the box hidden behind the insulation in the attic of the house I grew up in, a metal box with a padlock and a sticky note taped to the top that read "For Jason Truth" inside, and I swear to God I almost didn't open it, because whatever truth my dad thought I needed to hear after he was gone, it wasn't going to be something comforting or easy or something I could just fold up and forget, but of course I opened it, because curiosity always wins, and inside were papers, letters, documents, and a single photo that nearly knocked the breath out of me, a hospital photo of a newborn baby, time-stamped October 1988, the month and year I was supposedly born, except the name on the hospital band wasn't mine. It said Bennett, male infant, and the hospital wasn't even in our state. It was in Texas, hundreds of miles away from where I'd grown up in Oregon, and as I dug deeper I found a birth certificate, not mine, a different one, issued in Austin, Texas, with the name Ethan Bennett and a list of parents I'd never heard of, and that's when my hands started shaking, because it didn't make sense. Why would my dad have someone else's birth documents in a box labeled "For me," and why was there a letter addressed to Ethan in his handwriting, starting with the words "I hope someday you'll understand why we did what we did"? And I swear in that moment it felt like the entire foundation of my life cracked open beneath me, because what kind of man hides something like this until he's dead and gone? What kind of father waits until he can't be questioned to drop a bomb like this on his son's life? And so I read the whole damn letter in the middle of the attic floor with a flashlight between my knees and a cold wind creeping in through the eaves, and every word made me feel more like a stranger in my own skin, because apparently my parents had adopted me under unusual circumstances, and my biological mother had disappeared shortly after I was born, declared legally dead within a year, no known father listed, and somehow my dad, who worked in government transport according to his vague job descriptions, had brought me home without any official adoption papers, something about a favor from someone high up that made it possible to raise me as his own without interference, and I didn't understand any of it, not really, but there was one line I couldn't stop reading: "We didn't take you, we saved you," and I don't know if he meant it literally or as some kind of moral justification, but it made me sick to my stomach, because if I wasn't legally adopted, and my real mother had vanished under suspicious circumstances, what the hell had actually happened to her, and what kind of man was I mourning at that funeral just one day ago? The man everyone called a patriot, a hero, a good father, and I wanted to burn the box, bury it, pretend it never existed, but something inside me, a voice, maybe hers, kept whispering that the truth was only beginning to show its face, and I had a choice now: pretend everything was fine and live in the comfortable lie he left me, or dig deeper and risk unraveling the life I thought was mine. I couldn't sleep the night after Dad confessed the truth, or at least the version of it he allowed himself to admit. I lay in the dark, the shadows on the ceiling moving with every car that passed outside, replaying every conversation I'd ever had with my family, every strange glance, every odd pause, trying to decipher which ones were signs and which were paranoia. When the sun finally rose, I got dressed, grabbed the keys to Dad's old truck, and drove straight to Aunt Liz's house. She was the only one in the family who ever spoke her mind, and if there was one person left who hadn't fed me lies, it would be her. She answered the door in her robe, mascara smudged under her eyes like she hadn't slept either. "It's about time," she muttered and stepped aside. I didn't even have to say a word. She led me to the kitchen, poured 2 mugs of coffee, then lit a cigarette like it was still 1992. Your father told you, didn't he? She asked. Some of it, I said. But I think he's holding back. Liz stared at me over the rim of her mug. Of course he is. They all are. I leaned in. Tell me everything. I want to know what really happened that summer. Liz sighed, like she'd been carrying the weight of the story for decades, and finally, someone had asked for it. Your Uncle Danny, didn't he kill himself? That was just the official version. But it's a lie. And your grandfather knew it? Covered it up. My stomach twisted. Why would he do that? Liz gave a bitter laugh. Because it was easier than the truth. The truth would ve destroyed us. She stubbed out her cigarette and stood up. Come on. I'll show you. Thought were her friends. I imagined my Uncle Danny in the days that followed, racked with guilt, writing letters that no one read until it was too late, and I imagined my father, cool, calculated, saying what needed to be said to keep the family clean. I didn't cry, not yet. I drove back to my apartment just before dawn and stared at the shoebox for hours. I didn't know what to do with it. Hand it over to the police, go public, mail it anonymously, but every choice came with fallout, so I did. The one thing I never thought I would. I called my father. When he answered, I said one word, Rachel, and he went silent for so long I thought he'd hung up, and then he said, come to the house, bring the box. I don't know what I expected, but I drove over, the sun just rising, my breath fogging in the cold morning air. He was already waiting outside on the porch, like he knew I'd come, like he always knew I'd find out. We sat at the kitchen table where I'd eaten cereal as a kid, and I opened the box between us. He didn't look at the letters, just stared at his hands. You want the truth? He said. You deserve it. And he told me everything, how Rachel had been flirting with both of them, how it got out of hand, how Danny tried to stop it, how she hit her head on the rocks, how they panicked, how my father told Danny they couldn't go to the police, how he made the decision, how he staged it like an accident and made my grandfather promise to protect him. Danny wanted to confess. He said. I stopped him. I told him, we'd lose everything, and then he said the words I'll never forget. I killed my brother to save myself, not with a weapon, not directly, but I killed him all the same. I sat there numb until I asked the only question that mattered, what do you want me to do? And he said, I want you to burn it all, the letters, the box, the story, let it die with us. But I couldn't do that. I stood up, walked out, and drove straight to the cold case division of the local precinct. I didn't give them my name, just handed over the box and walked away. I thought it would end there, but of course it didn't. 2 days later a detective knocked on my door, wanted to talk to me, wanted a statement, and just like that the dominoes started to fall. The news picked it up, exhumed records, old high school yearbooks, interviews. Rachel Carr's parents were still alive and still grieving. I watched them on TV hugging in their front yard after hearing the truth. After 30 years of lies, my father was arrested, not for murder, the statute had passed, but for obstruction, for tampering with evidence, for conspiracy, and more importantly for the cover-up. It didn't bring Danny back, it didn't bring Rachel back, but it pulled the mask off my family. The fallout was brutal. My aunts and uncles disowned me, called me a traitor, said I'd spit on the family name, but Liz, she stood by me, and so did a few cousins who'd always suspected there was something wrong behind the smiles. It's been a year now. The trial made headlines for weeks. My father took a plea deal. He's in prison, and my grandfather died just before it all went public. I think he knew the reckoning was coming. I moved out of state, started fresh. I'm still haunted, not by what I did, but by how close I came to doing nothing, to letting it all stay buried. I visit Rachel's grave every few months, bring flowers, sit quietly. Sometimes her mom joins me. We don't speak much, but I think she knows I tried to do the right thing. I think Danny would be proud. I still see my father in my dreams. Sometimes not as the man who lied, but as the scared boy he must have been, trying to hold everything together by breaking everyone else. And I wonder what I would have done if I'd been in his place. But then I remember what I did do, and I know I made the only choice I could.